Thanks for checking out my video. Here, I want to talk about the MCAT and provide some very quick and useful information in a 3 video sequence to help with what I'm very familiar with based on a lot of tutoring, where I understand most pre-meds really struggle with MCAT prep. Now, there's tons of content online, and I'm not going to make anything more than these videos because I think it's all you realistically need. Most students know they have access to all the amazing prep material, they just don't know how to organize their schedule and how to get started. So it's my statement to get started here that my goals are to share this structure, but first this opinion. And it is an opinion. Maybe some people have such amazing content knowledge that this doesn't count, but in my mind, you can have very strong content knowledge, straight A's in all your classes, spend 2 months studying content and then take the MCAT, and I don't think that's going to get you a 515 or higher score most of the time. So the MCAT is much more than just content knowledge. And so you can't just brute force study material to get through it. I'll give you an idea. Of course, having good content is an important piece of the puzzle. But really, my goal here is just to give some structure, some tips, and especially in the last video, talk about how to review effectively. I think this is an important skill. Everyone says that you should do practice problems, but no one really tells you how you should review. So briefly, for those if you aren't familiar with the MCAT, I'll talk about it briefly. There are 4 sections to the MCAT. The chem physics sections where you'll run into topics like gen chem, OChem, and physics. Then you get a nice 15-minute break here. The cars section, which is basically just advanced and very upsetting reading comp, especially for the Canadians like myself taking the MCAT. You might know how important this is, and we'll talk about how to approach cars prep. Now, biochem comes after a 30-minute lunch break, and this is while you'll run into all sorts of even laboratory technique, biochem and biology, right? Lots of stuff. And finally, after that last 15-minute break, you run into the psych-soc section, which is just psychology and sociology. And a good bit of reading comp, as we'll discuss. Now, that, all in all, test, since each of these sections is about an hour and a half, give or take, is expected to take somewhere between 6 and 8 hours. Now, that is a long test. That is a test, when I took it myself, again, I scored a 521 when I took this, and this was back in 2017, so a while ago. But this test was nothing like I ever took before. And to be clear, you can't just walk up and take, if you're going to run a marathon, you need to work up to it and practice running that long. Taking a test for this long requires endurance, as we'll discuss. But a really important thing, and it comes back to this idea of content knowledge not being, just what you need, is this distinction in the MCAT between passage-based and discrete questions. All questions on the MCAT are multiple choice. With a discrete question, you're simply going to have an A, B, C, or D with a small question up above, right? Very standard to any multiple choice question you'd see. Here, content is king. So someone that has very strong content knowledge should be getting most of their discretes right. Where these students might start having trouble is in the passage-based questions, where you're going to have a large passage, maybe some figures, maybe an image, maybe a chemical structure, maybe a graph, some units, right? More writing. And then you're going to have, 4 to 7 questions, which are, again, multiple choice, but they're heavily based on the passage. Now, these passage-based questions make up the lion's share of questions on the MCAT. And here it's really important that you're able to synthesize the information from the passage, because some of these questions will be really, really easy if you've understood the passage, and be almost impossible if you haven't. Others just get answered directly in them. Some content knowledge that you have might lead you to the wrong answer, where the passage gives you the right one. So it's a mixture of knowing information and being familiar with these kinds of questions, and doing that over an 8-hour time period. Right? These things all together is what leads you to your high scores. So with that quick overview, I am excited to move to the next video, in the second video of the sequence, where I'll discuss a 3-month boilerplate study plan that you might find useful in building your own study plan, either using it, or adapting it slightly to your own situation. That'll help you understand what benchmarks you should hit, what goals you should aim for, and what pitfalls you should avoid. I'll see you in the next video to discuss the 3-month plan.